welcome to Urban RVers. I'm Monica.
And I'm Paul.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us on the show where we talk about what it's like to be an urban RVer. Some observations, some trends, some information, everything you need to be part of the RV community and the RV world. Coming up on today's show, we'll talk about how we travel, our preferences,
How we roll.
how this is how we do it.
All right. We'll also talk about changing demographics in the RV world. You may be surprised at what the demographics look like.
Yeah. What is the age group? So we'll tell you about that. Also, what it's like to have your RV and park at a marshaling yard, in particular one in Chicago.
Yeah. This is the ultimate urban RVing.
And also, you may have heard about this show. If not, we recommend that you check it out on Hulu. It's called Big RV Remix.
All right. Well, let's get into how we roll.
This is how we roll. This is how we do it. We are relatively new to the world of RVing. In fact, we got our RV right after the shutdown and during the pandemic, and not for the reason you think. We got the RV because we were always looking for a place and a decision on what to do. We live in New Orleans if we have to evacuate or leave. So now we say, okay, we're going to have the RV. So in the beginning, we traveled basically. You were driving the RV, I was following along in the car, in my car, primarily because it was very difficult to get rental cars. If you could find one, the prices were astronomical. So that's how we did it, and it worked really well for us.
It's continuing to work and also evolve. The rental car situation has gotten a whole lot better, and if you are RVing in an urban area or even a town with a university, there's going to be good Uber service. So we combine that, especially I guess a recent trip we took to Houston is a good example, where we got there. In fact, that one we drove together in our Class C RV, and we arrived at the RV park, called Uber. In fact, it was a gated RV park, so
Yes.
our concern was, will the Uber driver be able to get in?
Right. You have to go outside the gate and wait for the Uber driver. And the answer was no. We spoke to the people who manage and said, oh, no, that happens all the time. They'll come straight in. We look for them. We let them in. You guys hop in. No problem.
East Lake RV Resort.
Yes.
So we Ubered over to the car rental facility, rented a car, and then on the back end of the trip, we brought the car back, Ubered back to the RV on move out day, and everything went seamlessly. We could have been happier with the car we rented, but that's another story for another day.
Another episode. I mean, and again, my tip is figure out what works best for you. If you know that you like rental cars that are not 3 or 4 years old or have 30 or 40,000 miles on them, you may want to consider Ubering around to different places. And that's what we love it. Speaking of finding spots, you ran across a story of some RVers who actually were kind of like the ultimate urban RVers. They were in the huge city of Chicago.
Yeah, I discovered on YouTube the RVers called Living RV Vision or Living R Vision.
Uh-huh.
And they took a trip to Chicago, and they were traveling like we just described. It was just two of them in their RV, and I think they had a Class B, but they wanted to be in the city. They were going to go to a Cubs game at the convention center, the McCormick Convention Center in Chicago. There's this huge parking lot for trucks, a marshaling yard for trucks. And what McCormick did was they set aside an area for RVs. So about $38 a night, you can rent it. You don't get any hookups, so there's no sewer, no water. Interesting enough, according to our RV friends, they do offer Wi-Fi, which is interesting. But they parked there. They did an Ubered all over Chicago, and had a great trip. So, maybe that's something more cities could look into, is creating these places where basically you can park your RV and sleep there overnight. Now you're going to have to boondock it in the RV, but in a place like Chicago where it doesn't get awfully hot most of the year, that would work.
Yeah, and there's always a facility, usually, maybe not with a marshaling yard, but you can make it work. Again, what's your level of comfort or adventure when it comes to being an urban RVer and being in the city or very, very close to a city to have these things? Now, we talked about the marshaling yard, but we also are learning who is an RVer these days. And a lot of people have misconceptions or perceptions of who is at a place in life where they can be an RVer, take to the open road, spend 3 weeks. But we're finding that those who are buying RVs really are getting a bit younger.
Yeah, these demographics, they are from an organization called IDS 2023 RV Industry Trends. And what they found was through their surveys, 22% of RVers are now baby boomers.
Okay.
That number used to be higher,
I would
suspect.
imagine.
Yeah. 31% Gen X.
Wow, that's the 40-ish.
And 38% millennials.
Wow. Now that surprised me.
Yeah.
Because that's a young demographic. But again, and this is probably post-COVID, right?
Yeah,
Or,
that's what they attributed it to, post-COVID.
And people were reevaluating. They were looking at what's important to them, their value systems, how they wanted to spend their lives. A lot of people did the Great Resignation, and they wanted to be able to have a little more freedom. So it'll be interesting to see how that trend continues on.
And 31% surveyed said that they were first-time RVers between the age of 31 and 54. So, again, that's skewing a little younger than most people, than it has been. And I think most people probably still assume that it's a little higher than that. So very interesting. See when you're out there, if you see younger RVers.
Right. Talk to them. Find out, hey, why did you get an RV? That's the report in me. I'm always interested in people's stories. And speaking of stories and even a show, there's a new show that is called Big RV Remix. And it's co-starring Big Boy. And those of you who like the group, hey, yeah, an Outcast, you'll know Big Boy. So Big Boy with his business partner, they have teamed up to bring the wow factor to reimagining these different RVers. And many of them are celebrities. And we watched our very first episode out of order, but we loved it.
Yeah, they have 10 episodes. And of course, this is on Hulu, so you can binge it. But this episode that we watched featured Shaq. And we're Shaq fans. So he has a Class C, a Super C RV. I mean, huge.
It's huge.
Yeah. And older, though, probably about 8 to 10 years old, it looked like. But they had $100,000 budget to transform it into something that Shaq would love. And they did it.
They did it. And Shaq, what I liked about Shaq, he said, look, if you're going to reimagine this and bring on the wow factor, here are the things that I really like. That's important to me. One was the sound system. I won't give too much away. And they reimagined that place where it was so Shaq. And he said he wasn't crying, but I think he was moved to tears a little bit.
Yeah, I think I saw a tear or two.
A tear or two. So what we'd like to suggest to the show, we would like to have you reimagine our RV. It's relatively new.
Yes.
But it can go to another level.
Do it for the urban RVers. We don't need $100,000 budget, but Big RV Remix. Come to us.
Yes.
Reimagine our RV.
Right. You can tell Paul's wearing his Houston Astros cap. I like stories. He likes Star Trek. I mean, there's all sorts of possibilities. We're going to be out of your hair. We're not going to tell you and micromanage either, but we're offering our RV as an opportunity so you can get a wow factor there.
And in the meantime, subscribe to our channel, the Urban RVers.
Yes. We'd love to hear from you. How are you out there and about as an urban RVer? What towns or cities or areas, and what's the experiences? Do you drive together, or do you have an RV and then you use a Uber or you use a rental car? We'd love to know your experience. All right. That's our show this time around. Thank you for joining us on the Urban RVers.